years now. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate. Yeah.
Right, cool. Thank you for the big up, Nusra. Yeah, so hello and welcome to people out there. There's a few note takers out there as well, probably people catching up online. Should we just dive straight in? Right, let's go in. Let's go into my screen. I'll try not to disappear and spend the whole of the session behind PowerPoint. However, yeah, let's give it a go. So yeah, so my little cartoon this time. Could be given to Einstein, various people being a credit to it. But yeah, the education system. And the quote is, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. As Nusra said there, so 18 years in mainstream education, teaching 32, 34 students, and trying to get sort of people to, or students to access the learning. I teach now in a dyslexic specialist school, so sort of 8, 10, 12 students, but all our students are dyslexic, so different kind of teaching nowadays. Yeah, so the idea is to sort of make sure that all of education is accessible, you know, or accessible for all, or accessible for as many people as possible. That way we can be a judge on our ability, in order to be able to sort of process, think, analyze, rather than sort of our ability just to access a question or retain rote information. So yeah, that's my little cartoon for starting. I mentioned I'm at Moon Hall School, Reigate. I do some private individual work as well. I've got down the bottom here, so AT, so assistive technology plus AI plus human in the building. That's a physical building, that ability to be able to talk to one another, as well as sort of the building of the resources or building of the system. And yeah, it makes amazing opportunities for all learners. Right, let's admit a few people. Hopefully yeah, microphones are off. If you can just check your microphones off, that'd be great. Lovely, thank you. Yeah, so I'm based down in Reigate, just south of London, over here in lovely UK. Yeah, accessibility and inclusion are the test, but good AI use should reduce barriers, support clarity, and widen participation. And I've led with this on this is our third session now. But yeah, definitely keeping our young people at the heart of what we do, not just providing technology or ed tech for the sake of doing so and then ticking a box, but actually thinking about who are our end users, how are they going to use this, how's it going to better their education. Let's get a few more people in. Yeah. So yeah, AT and AI for all today. We're moving from accessibility, so from access to progress. So if you joined us last week, we spoke about our access tools. That was part 1, talking about accessibility features, talking about dictate and Windows plus H, that little dictate feature, talking about immersive reader, talking about read aloud in order to be able to convert text to speech and speech to text. It's the original AI, mapping shapes to sounds and sounds to shapes. And it's that low cognitive load, yeah, that repetition, that allowing people to sort of access the information so that they can focus on the actual task rather than the actual task of understanding what the task is. As a strange way. Today we're going to go, so part 2, we're going to look at learning accelerators, reading coach, maths coach, search, speaker progress, and looking at reflecting insights. If these are new words to you, I'm going to show you quick little practical demos of how we use some of those here at Moon Hall, and then I'll signpost you to the Microsoft Learn pathways or guides in order to be able to sort of go and extend your learning. The bridge, this bit in the middle, okay, I mentioned at the top, from access to progress. So the bridge tools help most when they become part of a routine. So by building that routine into a child or into a young person's learning, again, we're talking about that cognitive load. They can then focus on the actual task in hand rather than the actual task of accessing the information. So the shift's not to more technology. The shift is to clearer practice, faster feedback, faster or better visibility. We spoke about access previously, but that feedback as well is really, really important. The world seems to be getting an awful lot faster, and students want the now. That old kind of, you know, do a piece of work, hand it in, mark it, and you give it them back next week in order to be able to go through that work, doesn't seem to cut the mustard anymore with our young people. Yeah, they want it there and then, yeah, or at least while it's fresh in their memory. So I'm hoping with these learning accelerators, you can see kind of how we can make that bridge between the accessibility tools and the actual outputs that or the education that the students are doing. Again, I will send this out as a PDF and loads of little links. I don't know if you can see my cursor going over the top of it, but these are the Microsoft 365 Learning Accelerator quick start guide, so easy enough to sort of download and ask questions of that. Learning Accelerators, so benefits. We're going to get some real-time coaching. The Microsofts are inclusive by design. I'm hoping somewhere it will save us some time. And again, it might take us a while to sort of get to use them, get to know them and understand them. But if we can build them into our routines, build them into the student routines, it's that kind of that setup at the beginning of lessons. Students are familiar, they can move in, they can get on with the task. And a lot of these, I can set these as an assignment on Teams, for example. Students can come in and they can kind of access them without me having to deliver that big kind of introduction at the beginning. We're going to look at some actionable insights. I'll show you a little bit. GDPR reasons, I can't show you my classes, but I'll show you kind of where they are and what kind of things to look for. And again, I'll signpost you as how you can do a little bit more in-depth research and understanding. Skills and tools, so some foundational, some reading fluency, some numeracy. We're looking at well-being as well, students being able to express to you within the classroom, within the safety and security, rather than sort of putting their hand up and saying that they're a little bit, they don't understand or they're a little bit distressed here. You can kind of monitor it online and sort of have those conversations with students. Not in front of their peers is what I want to try and say. Future ready, yeah, so looking at information literacy, looking at presentation. So I'll show you how our year 11 students, so our students that are leaving school and moving on to colleges, how they prepare for presentations, how they prepare for interviews as well. And again, I mentioned about looking at sort of educational insights. Looking at them through this accessibility, through the inclusivity lens. So yeah, before we start looking at your learning accelerators, it's great to sort of have a tool. I mentioned tech before, but before we start looking at them, we need to sort of ask, does it reduce a barrier? Okay, and access obviously comes before progress. Does it make the practice safer? So learners need a space to rehearse, to retry, to improve, and a safe space. You know, not a lot of our students like to read out in front of other students, but that sort of ability of being able to read out loud and be able to practice that in a safe place is just invaluable skills. Does it make the feedback clearer? So me as a teacher, when I put feedback on there, I can then back that up with verbal. If I'm relying on digital feedback, is it clear? Is it understandable? Do the students get the feedback? Do I get the feedback? Do I get feedback of like class knowledge and understanding? Do I get feedback of individual students within that class? Can I focus my next lesson or my next task on a particular topic or on a particular student? Does the support, does it support independence? Does it mean that students can access the information without that long spiel in front? Can students just get on with it? If they're unsure, can they go back? Can they check whether or not they understand the task? Can they do a couple of tasks and then sort of go back and then if they've forgotten those tasks? So does it support independence? And most importantly, where does the human stay in the building? I'm not trying to offload my teaching onto a computer, okay, just to make it digital for digital's sake. Technology supports professional judgment. It's there to help me, to guide me in order for me to teach my students better, okay? It's not to replace me. First one I'm going to start with is Reading Coach. So we built this in. We've got a different literacy program this year, and we have gone with a digital package. But prior to that, and also I introduced this to my year 7s, so the 11-year-olds today, and they absolutely loved it. And the reason why is even though they're reading and they're all reading out loud, so I had 14 students in quite a small classroom today, all with headsets on, all reading a passage they've never seen before, but all confident enough to do so. And strangely enough, unaware of everybody else that was around them also reading and reading different stories. And it's that ownership. So Reading Coach, I've got on the left here, it supports reading fluency through practice. They record themselves so they can look back, they can review. It gives them a safer reading space. So for example, if they're doing presentations, we can upload documents that they're going to present. I mentioned about interviews before, and I'm going to show you how you can create your own little AI generated story using characters you've selected. It builds fluency, it builds confidence, and it builds independence. What it does do, and I'm hoping when I click on this, we're going to sort of dip in into, let's see if it goes to it. Yay. Okay. Right. Again, like I say, I'll share this PowerPoint out as a PDF. So when you get it, you'll get all the links, everything. So yeah, I'm just going to get started. Now, when you go into here, it will ask you to create an account. I've got my little account created up here. Students, I get my students to create their own using their student emails if they've got them, or you can use personal emails. I've joined on here as a teacher. So as part of my setup, I've declared that I'm a teacher, which means I've got a teacher mode. So I can create passages for my students to read, or I can jump on here as a student. And when I get my students to create their own accounts, this is where I go with them, and they come onto this bit, so they won't see the little teacher bit. What you see here is immediate feedback. So you can see I practiced before, I did a demonstration before. It starts off at 20 minutes. I read for a minute in front of my students, and then it gave me some feedback on there, and then it's dropped it down to 19 minutes. Every 20 minutes, it gives me a reward, and I'll show you a bit. It opens new characters, it opens new settings. So the students, as well as being independent, they're rewarded as well, which is really great from this. It's got down here reading a passage from our library, add your own passage. So if, like I mentioned before, if students have got if students are reading out in an assembly, for example, or they're doing a presentation, then they could upload a passage here, or as a teacher I could upload a passage for them and they could practice reading out loud that passage. Or they can create a story using AI. This was my one I created earlier. So milk mishap in the kitchen. So let's give it a go. Create a story using AI. You can see I've got these grayed out. So I mentioned before about these 20 minutes. Once my 20 minutes are up, I'll get rewards. So I'll get new little characters will open up. So I'm going to choose the main character. I'm going to choose a dog. I'm going to have a dog in a school. Let's see what mischief it gets up to. Levels are based on American levels, so it's best to sort of go in and find out where that sits within your literacy or within your schooling. Level 1, very, very easy, but quite longer passages, and students quite often jump on there thinking it's easy and then get bored really quickly. Level 8, longer passages, more complex words. Again, I'm not an English teacher, so it's again finding that yourselves. I'm just going to click on, let's go on level 3, create my story. And then 3, 2, 1, it creates my little story. So it's created a story that's never been seen before, and you can see this in the background. And when I'm ready, I can just click start reading. If I'm not ready, okay, then I can click not ready. I can sit and I can pause and I can wait. As soon as I click start reading, and I'm not going to do it, then I can click on either the little microphone down the bottom, and then it just records me. Yeah, so it records me reading and then gives me feedback. Up in the top right-hand side, so if I'm not ready yet, then what I can do, again, is I can play around with my text. I can play around with my font and my format so that the student gets the text exactly how they want it. My grammar options, so for example, if I wish to highlight the nouns, if we're looking at nouns, in English or in literacy today, then I can highlight different parts of speech. And again, reading preferences, I can put my little lines on and I can move up and down the speech or up and down the text if I want to. Picture dictionary, if I'm stuck with a word, then I can click on a word, for example. There you go, and it gives me a nice little picture, and I can listen to the word. Unfortunately, I've not clicked on the sound, but it will read it out loud to me. So before a student actually starts reading that passage, they can go through there and they can kind of pick out the little words, find the dictionary, they can listen to it themselves. Again, it gives them that confidence, it gives them that independence, and then when they're ready, all they need to do then is click the start reading at the bottom. Start reading. And then follow the text. It reads out all the text. Once I've read the text, let's just come out of this bit. Let's escape here. Let's go back to where we were. And it will give me some feedback on there. It will drop my minutes, so it will reward me some points. It gives me a reading streak. Okay, so read 3 more days. It also gives me some sort of impression of how well I've read. It gives me an accuracy reading as well there. I can then create the next chapter, or I can start creating a new AI story. Or like I say, if we're doing this week and then next week we're using this to prepare something, then we can upload a document. Again, and it's all free and it all sits there. This is called Reading Coach. Right. from reading coach, we're going to move into reading progress. Now, reading progress is very similar, but this sits with inside Word. So if we, sorry, with inside Teams. So I'm just going to click on here, and then we've got these little learning accelerators. Again, supports the reading fluency, gives me some feedback. Let's just jump on. It's going to open up a team. So I've just created a little dummy team here, which we can look at. And what I can do is I can go into assignments. And if I was going to set an assignment on here, is it going to do it? Submit other people that are coming. Okay, don't want to sign up for this little. I'm going to create. And if I was going to create a new assignment, that's where I'd create it. Or I can click on a Learning Accelerators and I can go straight into reading progress. Or if I want to, just click on new assignment. And then down the bottom here, those are my Learning Accelerators here. So let's create a little assignment. If I wanted to click on Learning Accelerators, I want to go into reading progress. Again, I can import a document. So what I do weekly with my younger students is create like a roundup of the news, what's happened in the world news. I upload that as a Word document, and then the students can practice reading that out loud. For me today, I'm just going to generate a reading passage. So this is similar to the reading coach, but now me as a teacher, I'm in control of this. So for example, if I want to go into culture, let's go sort of up the ages, keep it 100 words. I'm going to go to UK, but I'm going to go into the United Kingdom English. I'm going to generate a reading passage. Should be quite quick. Okay. And then again, I can check through that in order to be able to make sure as the teacher that I'm quite happy with this text. So this is text that I'm reading. Okay. And again, it can be quite quick. Again, the little algorithms, and if I'm happy, I'll thumbs up, and it generally sorts to start to understand my style. If I'm happy with this, so I can up the complexity, I can down the complexity. If I wish to use the passage, there's my little passage here. If I want to go in there and edit, then I can go in there and edit if I wish to. Students, this is what the students are going to see. Okay, so what they'll see is they'll see the little passage here in the middle. I've got to make sure I turn on my camera, which is down here, and I've got to make sure I turn on my microphone. Okay, and then the passage kind of appears and the students record themselves. Now, the great thing about this, I'm just going to zoom out so we can see everything, is I can tell them a reading level in order to be able to set it. Like say with my year sevens, I can, within a class, I can set like 2 or 3 different reading ages within a class, and then within teams I can then distribute those out to individual students. So the student might be sitting next to each other and they might not be aware that it's kind of a different passage, it's aimed at their reading age rather than another student, and they all do the same task at the same time. Genre, I can give this number of attempts. If you leave it on unlimited, then they will continue as long as they can in order to be able to read this passage back. So I normally set a limit of 3. 10 minutes in order to be able to do each passage is more than enough. That's about 30 minutes. So I can set the pronunciation sensitivity. I can also the reading coach. So I'm going to turn the reading coach on, which gives me feedback. Add comprehension. I'm going to add a comprehension. I can add my own questions here, or I can generate. And again, I'm just going to use AI in order to be able to generate these 3 questions. Let's see how quickly the Wi-Fi is at the end of the day. So there we are, 3 questions, and they self-mark these. And then this longer question here, this is the perfect answer. So when I go in and I'm marking the work, it quite quickly gives them feedback on these. I can go back and I can answer this one individually, me as a teacher, and it's that interpretation. If I'm quite happy, I can add questions, or if I'm quite happy, let's just click off. Yeah, so allow students to see questions next to passage. I'm going to tick this. So when the students are doing this on their laptop, for example, they've got the passage next to them and they've got the questions next to on the same screen. I'm going to move on to next. I can then set a date, which I would then wish to for them to hand in. I can click on this one here, reflect check-in. So when a student hands it in, they're going to click on a little icon. Okay, and that little icon is going to let me understand, are they happy with it? Are they confused with it? Were they somewhere in between? Okay, I'm going to set it for all my current students in the class. Yeah, or I can set it for individual students. I mentioned before, within a classroom, I can set a text, different reading levels, for example, for different students within one classroom. Okay, so that's how I would set the assignments. Let's just come out of this. Whoever's got their microphone on, thank you. So I'm going to discard this one. Okay. If anyone's got their microphone, are you okay to switch off, please? Thank you. Right, okay, let's go back in. If you know Blue Peter, here's one we made earlier. So yeah, reading progress example. Okay, one of our lovely teachers. So I did this assignment, and then the teacher came in and then they read it. Okay, and they're quite happy with me showing this. Now it gives them immediate feedback. So this has given them a 96% accuracy rating. So this is a transcript of their little video here. Okay, it's got one mispronunciation here. They inserted a couple of words at the beginning. They missed out. So this little pink one here. So this gives me a transcript of what they're actually reading. If I want to, I can go in. Okay, I can watch the little video and I can move against this. I've got my little auto detect on. If I want to, I can turn my auto detect off and then I can go in there and I can do this myself. Okay, once I've finished this, I can give, yeah, so nice reading. Yeah, I can give them some feedback on there. If we had, and we didn't have this one, I'm afraid, if we had that little comprehension, there'd be a little comprehension section up here, and I can click on there and I can go in and I can look at their comprehension section as well. So again, it gives them that AI feedback, or me as so that they get sort of quite immediate feedback. But as a teacher, I've got overall control of this. Before they see any of this, I have to then sort of go in, look it, and then I return it back to that student. Okay, right. I'm hoping, like I say, we'll move quite quickly. That's reading progress. So reading coach is when students can go online and create their own stories. With this, I set that as a reading passage and I distribute that out to my students. I will then AI mark or generate or assess. I go in and then I check that assessment. So hopefully it speeds up, it adds to my assessment, but I've got overall control. Until I hit that return button, the students don't get that immediate feedback. Okay, I'm in control of that feedback. I mentioned before, once the students hand an assignment in, then they'll get one of these little emoticons, and up here you can see at the top, these little emoticons let me know as a teacher how the students were feeling. So if I'm looking at the feedback here, this is over several sessions. You can see there's quite a big sort of red block here, and when I looked, red block, that means that they're confused. Yeah, some of the top words were bored or confused. These are the little red ones. So there's not as much green as I would like. When I actually went into there, what was happening was, strangely enough, the students who kind of breezed through it weren't hitting these at the end. They were quite happy, so they just didn't hit the emoticon at the end. Okay, they didn't feel that they needed to give feedback because they just got on with the task. And it was the students who actually fed back in here. These were the ones that were struggling. They were actually going step by step, going really slowly, really methodically. From that, I could identify those students. I went and sat next to one of the students the next lesson, and it was just the fact with the headset. They were having trouble with the headset. And as soon as we readjusted, the headset can be both ways round. As soon as we readjusted the headset, they were perfectly fine and okay. But it allowed me as the teacher to identify amongst my class which students might have some issues or problems, and I can go and sit with that one teacher. Underneath here, you can see all of the different feedback. So challenging words, which words are kind of repeating, which words are coming across the whole of the school, the whole of the class, which ones can we build into a class project. What I've also done is I've taken these challenge words and I've created little Word documents, and I can give those out to students, and then they become like challenge, like spelling tests. So we could do like a spelling test the next week. So it becomes that little extension work that the students can get on with. Okay, again, gives me sort sort of average accuracy for the students for the whole class, and then I can drill down into which students are doing really well. Let's set them a higher challenge, a different assignment next week than the other students, and I can sort of provide that one-to-one support. That's reading progress. That is educational insight. So these are reflect. So reflect supports the emotional check-in. How does a student feel about the assignment? And then insights lets me drill down into the actual information, their literacy, for example, their understanding, their comprehension skills. Okay, right. Maths coach and maths progress. Again, pretty similar. If I go in. Let's go into Teams, and I created a little maths progress here. Again, if I wish to then create an assignment. So I create an assignment. Let's go straight into Learning Accelerators. Let's go straight into maths progress. And again, I can set this for a whole class, or I can set this for individuals within a class. So if I'm doing maths or I'm doing numeracy, rather than sort of separate students out and give them different worksheets, if they're all able to access a digital device, then I can set different assignments within the same class. Generate or create my own. Let's just create my own. In fact, let's go through various categories. Let's look at fractions today. Let's look at, I'm not a maths teacher, basic operations with fractions looks like the kind of thing that I'd be interested in. I'm going to generate these. Again, having that specialism allows me to. We've worked with our maths teachers here. So for example, previously it had the little point for the multiplication, which is in America and South Africa as well. So we've got the UK version, and that allows us with the little X, the multiplication or the times sign. So again, some of the annotation or the notation, you can change with the notation as well. So please have a little bit of check, make sure that your students are going to be able to access that. You can see here it's generated some questions. So for example, if I wish to select all of them, I can do. If I wish to select 3 or 4, let's do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. So it's selected them, it's put them down here. Okay, down the right hand side. So I've got 8 questions there. I can press my little next. Yeah, and this is what the students are going to see without the correct answer in it. So they will see the top part here. Okay, it's got 10 points each. So I can go in there, I can edit that. Yeah, let's just drop that down to 1 mark for that one. Yeah, and let's just save that one. So you can see I can go in there and I can individually change those. I can ask a student to show their work. So student ratings. What I can do, which is quite clever, is I can shuffle the question order. So if I've got the whole class doing the same mathematics sheet, I can get them to work in order, in which case they can work with their peers. If I want them to work individually, then I shuffle the question order. And when I hand that out, the student's question number 1 isn't going to be the same as the student's question number 1 that's sitting next to them. So again, they can work in peers, or I can use that to sort of break up peer support and make sure that they're working independently. When I'm happy, again, exactly the same. I can set it for all current and future students here. I've set up my classrooms. I can put my little reflect in there, so I get those little emoticons, and it allows me to understand which students have struggled, which students have found it easy. Again, once I have put a title on there, then I can assign that, and I can assign that to the class, or if I want to, I can assign it to certain individuals within that class. Okay. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to discard that one, but hopefully you're getting a bit of an understanding of how these things work. So yeah, so that's numeracy, that's maths. This one here, this is Search Coach and Progress. I don't use this one here. I've looked at it. We kind of do something a little bit similar, so I've kind of kept with this. What this allows me to do, if I can just show you, is obviously, and particularly with sort of AI and particularly with sort of digital tech as well, we want to make sure our students are looking for hallucination, looking for bias with AI, but making sure they're validating, they're checking their facts. So in here, if I go in here and I select an assignment, what I can do is, rather than the students just jumping on any old website, I set an assignment. By setting this assignment, let's see if I can show you, search progress. By setting this assignment, I can either allocate certain websites, or it monitors the websites that the students use in order to be able to complete a task. Yeah, so you can see here, configure the assignment. So I can set an assignment. I don't know whether they're going to research the history of XYZ. And the students, when they're accessing this, all of the websites that they are, it lists their sources here. So I've got the sources ticked on. I'm going to ask them to write a simple little explanation of why they've used that website, what was useful about that website. Okay, was that source? Yeah, what's the reputation of that source? Okay, and then also I'm asking for the students to give some reflection. So as well as doing the actual task themselves, I'm getting them to validate the actual websites, the information that they're using in order to be able to complete that task. I hope that kind of makes a little bit of sense. Yeah, so within an assignment, I set my assignment, and then the students, I see which websites the students are using, but more importantly, the student has to validate why they've used that, whether that's a valid source in order to be able to use, or if they've discarded it, why they discarded it. Yeah, what makes a reputable website or web page and whatnot. I'm just going to come out of this. So, like I say, we're not using this one here. I put the little video on, so when you get the resources, you can have a little bit of a look, and I'll guide you towards that. But again, like I say, particularly in the world of AI, if your students are using AI, then that bias, that hallucination, validating your facts, okay, really, really powerful. Speaker coach and speaker progress. Right, now I can set this as an assignment. Okay, just gonna get a little drink. I can set this as an assignment. And essentially, very, very similar to reading progress and reading coach. The students actually record themselves. Now, this is on a PowerPoint, so I can set an assignment and I can upload a PowerPoint if I wish to. Students then present that PowerPoint. Okay. What I've done, for example, I mentioned my year 11s. So year 11s, they're leaving high school or leaving secondary school now. They're getting their interviews ready for college. So in readiness, in preparation, I upload like a dummy PowerPoint. And on each of those slides, there'll be a question. So it might be a question of like, why have you chosen this college? Or why have you chosen this course? And then I spend a lesson with them, just kind of what are the typical questions that you would be asked in an interview? What would make good answers? And then the students individually, they research their college courses, they research all the jobs or their apprenticeships that they're looking for, and they put their answers underneath the question on each of the individual slides. Once they're done, then they record themselves. In essence, they stare at the screen, they put the PowerPoint on, they play the PowerPoint, and they record themselves, they interview themselves, and they get a recording. Now, that recording also gives them, as well as that pronunciation and accuracy feedback that we saw in reading progress, it also gives them sort of eye contact. Yeah. What kind of, are they umming? Are they ahhing? Are they stuttering? Yeah. How fluent are they? What's the fluency with which they're presenting? Now, that has been an absolute game changer. For our students to be able to present or prepare a presentation and then to see themselves is so, so powerful. Yeah, if you've never done it before, if you've not seen yourself on a screen, try this out. Game changer. Absolute game changer. If I'm going to dive out of this, I'm going to go back into my PowerPoint. I'm going to show you live. You can set it, like I say, you can set it within as an assignment within Teams. Or if you want to, if the students are just doing it, or we can do this as well. You know, if you're going to dive off this and you're doing a recording tomorrow night or you're doing a presentation, you can do this yourself. So if I go into my slideshow, here we are. So rehearse with coach. The minute I click on this and click on start rehearsing, what's going to happen is it's going to record me doing my presentation. So it went straight to the beginning of my presentation. As soon as I start rehearsing, I've got my camera on, I've got my microphone on, and it will record me. And then it will give me feedback on my presentation. I will also see myself, yeah, how others have seen me. Yeah. absolute game changer. Like I say, we did that. We spent a lesson talking about interviewing, interview techniques, kind of questions, and I got them to do the research. We spent a lesson then and they recorded themselves, and some of them really, really shy, absolutely hated it. Once they'd done it, they wanted to do it again because they wanted to be, it's like a competition. No, I need to do this. I need to sit up straight. I need to look at the camera. I need to stop stuttering. I need to stop umming and ahhing. Okay. The week after, we brought real people in. Yeah, we brought professionals in, we brought sort of parents and carers in as well. And our students then had the confidence in order to be able to stand there. And some of them were saying it was worse watching your own recording than it was actually sitting there talking to a complete stranger. And again, the strangers, they weren't strangers to us, don't worry. Yeah, let's say the parents, the carers, the professionals that came in had a set of questions and they kind of went through the questions. But having done that, you know, our students then have the confidence. They're then sitting online doing interviews for colleges. They're going in and doing face-to-face. And it all started off from this very, very small thing of just a simple thing of seeing yourself, recording yourself, presenting. Again, I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to dive back out. I then need to re-find. We are very near the end. So yeah, that's speaker coach. And again, like I say, progress, you get all the kind of the progress that's within it. So I can set an assignment for my students like I did with the questions. Or if you want to, you can do it yourself. If you're in PowerPoint, you want to try it later, just throw up a PowerPoint. Yeah, if you're going to teach tomorrow and you're using the slide deck and you're using PowerPoint, throw it on there, click on that little speaker rehearse coach, yeah, and just record yourself and see what you look like. Here's all the little learning accelerators. I put all the little pathways. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dive out of here. I will copy and paste these into the chat. Nuzra's very nicely going to distribute this as a PDF, so all the links are on there. I'll stick around. So let's say I'll put all of these in the chat. You'll get this as a PDF with all the links on it as well. If you're interested, accessibility, this is our school. This is our website. We've got a whole load of accessibility features and AI features on there if you want to. This is me. Lots of people catch me through LinkedIn. And then this is my email down the bottom. Again, all of these details will be on this pack. I'm going to stop sharing, come out, see if anyone's got any questions. And while we're answering questions, I'm going to copy and paste those Microsoft Learning Guides into the chat. All right. I'll stick around if not. If not, I'll catch you next time. I think Nuzra wants a quick word though, Phil.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, David. Yeah, it was a great session, fully packed session, I'll say.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, please, you can unmute and ask, or even you can type it in the chat.
Either I've done a brilliant job or everyone's asleep.
I think they've understood everything 100%.
Yeah. So yeah, I've put all the links. So again, pretty similar to what we said before. Yeah, you go on the links, you gain your points. It goes towards Microsoft accreditation.
And Shahana, if we can please put the links for the Credly badge and the feedback form. Yeah, the feedback form is there. You can, it's a short one, I'd say. So please try to fill that form. Then only we know what do you think about the session and how we can improve our sessions. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, all feedback gratefully received.
Yeah. And if you click on the Credly badge registration, you will get an AI literacy badge directly from Microsoft. So that will be a credit for you. So please feel free to click on that and fill that as well.
Okay.
The link, the form, somebody's asking what form. The link of the form is on the chat. Anyone is already using these things? The learning accelerators in their schools? Anyone have used it before? Or yeah?
I don't know what time it is wherever we are. It's near 20 to 6 over here. But yeah, if you're heading home tonight, that reading coach, like saying it's free, all you need is an email just to sign up. You can try that with your children tonight.
Yeah,
Try it with
I'll put
yourself
the
tonight.
link as well. Yeah. Mhm.
Thank you, Nate.
Thank you, Nate, for your feedback. Saying great ideas and tools to support learning, definitely. So I would say the reading progress is also a game changer.
Yeah, you're liking that one.
Yeah. Mm.
I like the way you can set like different ability text, different reading ages
Yeah.
within one class. So the
Mm.
student doesn't become conscious that they're reading something different. We've got what 12, 14 students all reading out loud at the same time. And yet they're focusing on what they're doing. They're not really kind of aware of that they might be reading something different. So yeah, great little tool. And it's free as well if you've got Microsoft accounts. Great stuff.
Yeah. So Khadija is saying I like the reading coach. So you have used it before, Khadija? No, so
you will be.
you will be using, yeah. If you explore, if you find it, it will make your life easy, and it's actually good for the students as they will get personalized feedback.
Yeah. We started using Reading Progress because I think we mentioned all our students are dyslexic, so we try and promote the use of assistive tech, that's speech to text. And a lot of students don't like to speak out loud because they feel that other people are listening into them. And what I've found with this is because they're reading a text and we start off, they all read the same text. By the time we're a few weeks in or a few lessons in, they're completely unaware that other people are reading different texts to them. They're completely kind of in the zone themselves. There's a lot of noise in the classroom when, as a teacher, I sit there and there's 14 people talking, but they just seem to be zoned into themselves. They only can really hear themselves. It's only when they sort of sit back that they kind of hear everybody else. So yeah, so it was a great learning tool or teaching tool for that dictate feature and making students confident in order to be able to when they need a spelling, when they're typing they need a spelling in order to be able to flick the dictate feature on and be able to talk it out. Until then they lacked the confidence to speak up or to flick their microphone on, or they felt other people were learning, or they felt other people were listening into them as well. And now it's just commonplace. Yeah, we go in there, they do some reading. That's the start of the lesson. I do little comprehension questions as well. So I've been setting over 6 weeks. I see them for 1 hour each week, like a news item, so like a news roundup. So I use a large language model, up to date one, and I create a little passage, sort of 300 words, for example, and it might take them a few minutes. And it's broken down into sort of world news, local news, and then some sort of funny, quirky facts or something. And then I also leave like the websites on, or the news pages. And the students that kind of read through quite quickly then end up going looking at the newspapers, and kind of reading around the fact. And then the comprehension questions build on, so they're not just reading it, they're having to understand it, and that's a big difference. I think I've mentioned before, my youngest daughter's dyslexic. She's the reading great, the writing handwrites is great. It's her comprehension speed. So by the time she's got to the end of a passage, she's often forgotten what was at the beginning of the passage. So this practice and this kind of, they know that there's some comprehension questions at the end. They're not just reading it, they're having to read it to understand it. It just seems to go in that little bit deeper. And again, before they actually start reading it, and reading it out loud. Because it's on an assignment on Teams, I copy the passage into the assignment and they can listen to it. So they can listen to it a few times so that they're confident before they're ready to start recording it themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great insight from your practice. Yeah, I think it will be very helpful for teachers if there are any English teachers here. Any English teachers here? It will be very useful for them, and particularly if the school is using Teams, it will be very useful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so if you don't have any questions, we can wrap up. Okay. Ashraf is saying it's a very useful session for teachers. By any chance, is it possible to get the recording? Yeah, you will get the recording. If you will get an email. If you haven't, please contact us through educate@impactedu.com. You will get a link for the SkillSpot registration. So you will create an account. We will actually, in that email, all the instructions will be there, how you will log into it. And after you register, you will get all the recordings of the previous sessions. And also we will have a lot of learning materials and resources in that platform you can access.
Excellent.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you very much, David. Again, for the second time we had you. We hope we will expect to have you in the future as well.
I'll start upping my rates.
Yeah, we will have a break for next week. We will have a break because we have a holiday break here for the Hajj festival. I think